Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world where identities are constantly being shaped by the external, by the perceptions of others, by what we own, by what we achieve, by how we are seen. We attach ourselves to these images, these ideas, thinking that they define us, but in truth, they only weigh us down. The question is, how do we free ourselves from this external hold? How do we truly disappear from the world's projections and become unrecognizable to ourselves and others? 2025 is a call to evolution, not just in the material world, but in our consciousness. This is the time to let go of the need to be seen, the need to be known, and to truly understand who we are without any labels. To disappear is not about erasing your existence, but rather it's about shedding the illusions that have kept you confined. It is about reconnecting to a space of purity, of freedom, where you are not bound by yesterday's identities or tomorrow's expectations. We are often haunted by the shadows of our past decisions we've made, people we've encountered, experiences that have left a mark. These memories can become so intertwined with who we think we are that we forget the truth. They are just moments in time, not the essence of our being. Holding on to past mistakes, successes, or traumas is like carrying an anchor while trying to move forward. Each moment you spend clinging to what was, you lose the precious opportunity to experience what is. Our minds, conditioned by the need for security, often hold tight to the past because it provides a sense of familiarity. We replay old stories, seeking meaning or answers that have already been lived. But the past is not a destination to revisit, it's a place we must leave behind if we wish to truly grow. Every thought of what could have been or what should have been keeps us trapped in a time that no longer exists. The only truth is the present moment. Letting go of the past does not mean forgetting it or dismissing the lessons it brought. It simply means not allowing those memories to dictate our current experience. The more we dwell on the past, the more we prevent ourselves from fully living in the now. The weight of our past shapes how we see ourselves and the world, but if we continue to drag this weight along, we're only carrying a burden that keeps us from soaring to new heights. True freedom comes when we stop identifying ourselves with past versions of who we were. The person who made mistakes, the person who was hurt, the person who triumphed, those are just fragments of a story. They are not the whole. When we release our attachment to the past, we free ourselves from the constant tug of these old narratives. We open up to a fresh possibility, to a version of ourselves that is not bound by what has already been lived. The beauty of life is that we are not confined to one chapter. Each moment offers us the opportunity to rewrite our story. To release attachment to the past is to understand that the story is still unfolding. It's not a line that connects a series of events, but a spiral that continually expands and evolves. The past is a page that has already been written, but the next page, that is yet to be crafted. And we are the ones holding the pen. For most of us, seeking the approval of others is an instinctive drive, one that begins early in life and becomes deeply ingrained as we move through the world. From childhood, we are taught to gain validation through grades, achievements, or simply by fitting into the expectations of our family and society. As we grow older, these external validations seem to take on even more importance, becoming measures of our worth. But the more we rely on others' approval, the more we become imprisoned by it, chained to the whims and judgments of those around us. The need for external validation makes us vulnerable. It can turn our lives into a never-ending quest to satisfy people, to meet their expectations, and to live up to the image they have of us. Yet, in this pursuit, we begin to lose ourselves. We start to mold ourselves into what others want us to be, often at the expense of our own desires, our own sense of truth. When we live for the approval of others, we are constantly looking outside ourselves for a reflection of our worth. This creates an unsteady foundation. The opinions of others change with time, circumstance, and mood, making it impossible to build a life based on something that is ever shifting. One person may praise us today, but criticize us tomorrow, and suddenly we are left questioning our own value. Our sense of self becomes tied to something fleeting, unreliable, and external. The constant seeking of approval also keeps us trapped in the game of comparison. We look at what others are doing, how they are living, and we measure ourselves against their standards. But this is a game with no winners. Everyone is on their own path, and our journey is unique. By comparing ourselves to others, we only distract ourselves from the truth of our own path. We are not meant to live according to someone else's expectations. We are meant to follow the call of our own inner voice. To free yourself from the approval of others is to reclaim your authenticity. It is to trust in your own judgment, to honor your desires and instincts, and to move through the world without the constant need for someone else to tell you that you are enough. The beauty of this freedom is that when you stop seeking validation, you start living for yourself, not for someone else's idea of what your life should be. Living authentically means making choices based on what aligns with your values, your purpose, and your heart rather than out of fear of what others will think. It's not about dismissing others entirely or being indifferent to their feelings, but it's about not allowing their opinions to determine your sense of self-worth. The more you liberate yourself from the need for approval, the more you begin to trust yourself to live with courage and conviction and to pursue what genuinely brings you peace and fulfillment. When you step out of the shadow of others' judgments, you begin to live your own truth. You become unshackled, free to create a life that reflects your true self, unburdened by the need for validation. In this space, your power is restored, and you realize that the only approval you need is your own. The world may continue to have its expectations, but you will have found the most liberating truth: you are enough just as you are. For much of our lives, we are conditioned to seek validation from others. It starts early, when we seek praise for our efforts, whether it's the approval of a parent for a drawing, the approval of a teacher for our grades, or the approval of our peers for the way we dress or speak. This need to be acknowledged, to be seen, is natural. After all, we all want to feel valued and understood. However, as we grow, this need often becomes a driving force, shaping our decisions, actions, and even our identity. The quest for approval becomes a cycle, one that can define our choices and restrict our ability to truly be ourselves. When we live for the approval of others, we make our happiness contingent on their judgment. We begin to weigh our worth based on their opinions and allow their expectations to become the blueprint for our lives. We may shape our actions around what we think will please others, often at the cost of our own desires, dreams, and values. Slowly, we lose touch with what we truly want and who we are. Our true self becomes buried under layers of external expectations, and the more we seek validation, the further we drift from the essence of who we are meant to be. This constant yearning for approval also creates a sense of insecurity, because it leaves our sense of self vulnerable to the whims of others. People are unpredictable, and their opinions can change based on their mood, circumstances, or even personal biases. One moment you may feel praised and accepted, but the next you might be criticized or ignored. When your self-worth depends on this external validation, you find yourself tossed about like a leaf in the wind, fragile and uncertain. The constant seeking of approval then becomes a trap, a never-ending chase for something that cannot provide lasting fulfillment. What makes this all the more insidious is the way it shapes our perceptions of ourselves. We begin to believe that our value is only real when others affirm it, and that without their acknowledgement, we are somehow lacking. This belief forces us to compare ourselves to others, to measure our worth against theirs. We look at how they live, what they have, and how they are perceived, and we subconsciously use these comparisons to gauge our own value. But no two lives are the same. We are each walking a different path, guided by our own experiences, strengths, and challenges. The comparisons are meaningless because they are based on a standard that was never meant to apply to us. True freedom comes when we learn to break free from this cycle. It begins when we shift our focus inward, learning to value ourselves for who we are, not for how we are seen by others. This does not mean disregarding others' opinions entirely, but rather it means no longer allowing those opinions to define us. The process is liberating because it allows us to step into our own authenticity. When we no longer depend on the approval of others to feel worthy, we reclaim our power. We are no longer living to meet someone else's standards, we are living in alignment with our own truth. Living authentically means that we make decisions based on what feels right for us, not based on what will garner approval. It means acting from a place of self-trust, not fear of rejection. We begin to honor our own instincts and desires, even if they do not align with the expectations of others. This kind of freedom gives us the courage to embrace our uniqueness, to follow our passions, and to create a life that is truly ours. In doing so, we also open ourselves up to the possibility of deeper, more genuine connections with others as we stop pretending to be someone we are not in order to fit in. When we free ourselves from the need for approval, we experience a profound sense of peace. The external world can no longer shake our sense of worth. We are no longer swayed by others' judgments or dictated by their opinions. We become the creators of our own narrative, confidently moving through life with a sense of clarity and purpose. The more we learn to validate ourselves from within, the more we realize that we were never in need of anyone's approval in the first place. We are enough just as we are. And in that realization, we find true freedom. The self-image we carry is one of the most powerful forces in shaping how we move through the world. From a young age, we begin to build a mental picture of who we are, a construct formed by experiences, opinions, and the feedback we receive from others. We come to define ourselves by these layers: our achievements, our appearance, our roles in life. We start to believe that the person we see in the mirror or the version of ourselves we project to the world is the truth of who we are. But the reality is that this image is just that, an image, a fragile illusion that is not grounded in the deeper, truer essence of our being. We cling to our self-image because it gives us a sense of stability, a fixed point in a constantly changing world. It provides comfort in the form of a story we tell ourselves about who we are. However, the more we cling to this image, the more we entangle ourselves in it. We start to think that this version of ourselves is who we must always be, and we become fearful of any changes that might threaten that image. We protect it, refine it, and mold it to fit what we believe the world wants from us, but in doing so, we become prisoners of a false identity. This attachment to our self-image creates a deep sense of disconnection. We believe that we are the sum of our past experiences, our outward appearance, or our achievements, and in doing so, we forget the truth that we are far beyond any label or category. We become trapped in a cycle of constantly trying to maintain or improve the image we have of ourselves, driven by the desire to meet certain expectations. The more we build our identity on these external factors, the more fragile it becomes, because these things are constantly changing. What happens when we lose the job, the relationship, or the physical appearance we once identified with? If our self-worth is tied to these things, we face a crisis of identity that can be deeply unsettling. The illusion of self-image also keeps us from seeing who we truly are. We become so focused on the outward expression of ourselves that we lose touch with our inner being, the part of us that exists beyond the roles we play, beyond the things we own, and beyond the approval we seek from others. This part of us is eternal and unchanging, yet it remains obscured by the layers of false identities we accumulate. To dismantle this illusion, we must be willing to look beyond the surface and question the beliefs and perceptions that have shaped how we see ourselves. This process begins by recognizing that we are not our thoughts, our body, or our roles. These are simply aspects of our experience, not the whole of who we are. Our mind creates countless thoughts every day, many of which reinforce the false images we hold of ourselves. We might tell ourselves that we are not good enough, that we are defined by our failures or successes, that our worth is linked to how we appear to others. But these thoughts are not the truth, they are just mental constructs, often based on fear and societal conditioning. By questioning these beliefs, we can begin to peel back the layers of illusion. As we dismantle these illusions, we come to realize that our true self is not bound by any image, not confined to any single identity. It is boundless, expansive, and free. When we let go of the need to define ourselves by external measures, we open ourselves up to a deeper experience of life. We begin to see ourselves as we truly are, whole, complete, and beyond any image we have tried to create. This shift is liberating, as it frees us from the constraints of our self-imposed limitations and allows us to embrace life as it is without the need for validation or approval. When we no longer define ourselves by our self-image, we can experience the world with greater clarity and authenticity. We are no longer trying to be someone we think we should be, but simply being who we are, free from the weight of false expectations. This doesn't mean we discard the roles we play or the identities we inhabit, but it means we no longer allow them to define us. We are not bound by what we do, how we look, or what others think of us. We are simply beings fully present in each moment, unmarked by the labels once held so tightly. Dismantling the illusions of self-image is a journey of returning to the essence of who we are beyond the stories, beyond the judgments, and beyond the fleeting perceptions of the world. It is a process of remembering that we are not the image we project, but the boundless consciousness that lies within, beyond all limitations. As we let go of this false self, we begin to experience true freedom, the freedom to simply be. The present moment is often elusive, a fleeting experience that we rarely allow ourselves to fully embrace. Instead, we find ourselves lost in the past or consumed by the future. Our minds habitually dwell on memories, on what has already occurred, and anxiously plan for what is to come. This constant distraction from the present moment creates a sense of disconnect, as though we are living in a different time altogether, never truly present in the here and now. Yet the truth is simple. The present moment is the only moment that truly exists. When we are caught in the grip of the past, we are often revisiting old wounds, regrets, or triumphs that no longer serve us. We replay conversations, relive experiences, and ask ourselves, what if? Over and over again, but all of this is happening in a mind that is trapped in time, stuck in moments that have already passed. The past significant in shaping who we are, is nothing more than a collection of memories, a story we tell ourselves. And yet it exerts a hold on us. We forget that we are not the past, that the past does not have to define us. We allow it to dictate how we experience the present, but in doing so, we prevent ourselves from living fully in this moment, this precious now. Similarly, when our minds race toward the future, we are often consumed by fear, anticipation, or desire. We project scenarios, both positive and negative, about what might happen. We create a future in our minds that may or may not come to pass, and in doing so, we rob ourselves of the power and clarity that come from being fully present. We fear what could go wrong, we imagine what might go right, but we forget that the future is just a collection of possibilities, not a reality we can control. We can plan, we can prepare, but we can never predict with certainty what will happen next. The future is an illusion until it becomes the present, and when we place our focus solely on it, we miss the richness and depth of the life that is unfolding right now. Living in the present moment means releasing these mental projections, both past and future, and fully engaging with what is happening right in front of us. It means putting down the weight of regret and worry and simply experiencing life as it is. The present moment, with all of its nuances, is where true freedom exists. In this space, there is no time, no judgment, and no expectation. There is only the experience of being, of breathing, and of existing fully. When we step into the present moment, we are no longer controlled by the mind's endless chatter about what was or what might be. Instead, we come into direct contact with life as it unfolds in its purest, most raw form. When we live in the present, we begin to notice things we've overlooked, the feel of the air on our skin, the sounds around us, the richness of a conversation, the taste of food, the beauty of a sunset. These experiences exist in the present moment, and when we are fully present, we can savor them. Our attention is not divided between past regrets or future anxieties, but fully invested in the here and now. We become aware of the world around us without judgment, without interpretation. We see things for what they are, not for what we think they should be. Stepping into the present moment also means letting go of the need for control. The mind often tries to control outcomes, to predict what will happen, to anticipate the next move. But when we let go of this need, we create space for spontaneity, for flow. We stop trying to force things into existence and allow life to unfold on its own terms. This release of control does not mean we become passive or disengaged, but rather it means we embrace the natural rhythm of life, trusting that each moment is unfolding exactly as it should. Being present is not something that happens by chance, it is a practice. It requires intention, patience, and awareness. Our minds will wander, and we will likely slip back into old habits of thinking about the past or future, but with practice we can bring ourselves back to the present. Each time we return, we are reminded of the peace and clarity that exist in this moment. Over time, we begin to realize that the present moment is not something we need to chase or grasp. It is always here, available to us if we simply stop long enough to notice it. When we step fully into the present, we experience life in its most vibrant form. The worries that once consumed us lose their grip, and we are left with the simple, profound experience of being alive. There is no past or future that can weigh us down when we are fully immersed in the now. And in this space, we find a deep sense of connection to ourselves, to others, and to the world around us. This is the beauty of the present moment. It is always available, always unfolding, always waiting for us to step into it. When we do, we step into a life that is richer, fuller, and more meaningful than any future we could have imagined or any past we wish we could relive. Our inner dialogue is a constant companion, a stream of thoughts and words that flows through our minds throughout the day. It shapes our perception of the world, ourselves, and others. Often this dialogue is not something we consciously choose, but rather a product of past conditioning, societal influences, and the experiences that have shaped us. Many times, this internal narrative is harsh and critical, filled with self-doubt, fear, and negativity. We may tell ourselves we're not good enough, that we'll never succeed, or that we don't deserve happiness. These thoughts become so ingrained in our minds that we start to accept them as truth, and they shape the way we interact with the world. But the truth is, this inner dialogue does not have to define us. It is not who we are, it is simply a reflection of the thoughts that arise in our minds, many of which are automatic and learned over time. By transforming our inner dialogue, we can change the way we see ourselves, the world, and the possibilities that lie before us. This transformation begins with awareness, the awareness that we have the power to reshape the way we think and speak to ourselves. The first step in transforming your inner dialogue is to become aware of the language you use. Pay attention to the words that you speak to yourself throughout the day. Do you find yourself using negative language filled with judgment and self-criticism? Do you often tell yourself that you're not good enough, that you'll never be able to accomplish something, or that you're not worthy of love and success? These words may feel familiar and even comforting, as they are often rooted in old patterns and beliefs. But they also limit you, keeping you trapped in a cycle of negativity and self-doubt. To break free, you must first notice the words and thoughts that are holding you back. Once you become aware of your inner dialogue, the next step is to begin shifting it. This is not about suppressing or ignoring your negative thoughts, but rather about changing the way you respond to them. When you catch yourself thinking something negative or unkind about yourself, pause and challenge it. Ask yourself, is this thought true? Is it helpful? Is it serving me? More often than not, you will realize that the negative thought is not based on fact but on old patterns, fears, or limiting beliefs. At this point, you can replace it with something more supportive, more loving, and more empowering. For example, instead of thinking I'm not good enough, you can replace it with I am worthy just as I am. If you catch yourself thinking I'll never be able to do this, try reframing it as I may not know how to do this yet, but I am capable of learning and growing. This shift in language may seem small, but it has a profound impact on the way you perceive yourself and your abilities. Over time, as you practice transforming your inner dialogue, you begin to rewire the way your brain processes thoughts, creating a more positive and empowering mindset. In addition to shifting your inner dialogue, it's also important to practice self-compassion. Our inner dialogue is often shaped by the way we have been treated by others, particularly in our formative years. If we were criticized or judged harshly, we may have internalized these voices, believing that we are not worthy of kindness or understanding. However, it's crucial to recognize that we are all human and we all make mistakes. We are not defined by our failures or shortcomings, they are simply part of the learning process. By practicing self-compassion, you can replace harsh self-judgment with kindness and acceptance. When you make a mistake, instead of berating yourself, try saying, "It's okay, I'm learning and I will do better next time." Another powerful tool for transforming your inner dialogue is to cultivate a mindset of gratitude. When we focus on what is wrong or lacking in our lives, our inner dialogue becomes clouded with negativity. But when we shift our focus to what we are grateful for, our thoughts begin to shift toward positivity and possibility. Take time each day to reflect on the things you appreciate, whether it's your health, your relationships, your opportunities, or simply the beauty of the world around you. As you practice gratitude, your inner dialogue will naturally begin to reflect more positive and affirming thoughts. It's also essential to recognize the power of affirmation. Affirmations are positive, present tense statements that help you reprogram your subconscious mind. By repeating affirmations daily, you begin to override the old limiting beliefs that may be holding you back. For example, if you struggle with feelings of unworthiness, you can repeat affirmations such as, I am worthy of love and success, or I am enough just as I am. Over time, these affirmations will become ingrained in your mind, gradually replacing the negative thoughts that once dominated your inner dialogue. As you work to transform your inner dialogue, remember that this is a practice, not a one-time fix. Your old patterns of thinking may resurface, but with patience and persistence, you can change the way you speak to yourself. The more you nurture your inner dialogue with kindness, positivity, and self-compassion, the more your external world will begin to reflect these changes. Your relationships, your work, and your overall experience of life will shift as your mindset transforms. The key to transforming your inner dialogue is recognizing that you have the power to change the way you think and speak to yourself. By becoming aware of your thoughts, challenging negative beliefs, practicing self-compassion, and using affirmations and gratitude, you can rewire your mind to create a more positive and empowering internal narrative. This transformation not only changes how you view yourself, but also how you interact with the world around you, opening up new possibilities and creating a life that is aligned with your true potential. In the constant noise of modern life, silence and stillness have become rare luxuries. We are surrounded by endless distractions, the buzz of notifications, the hum of conversations, and the ever-present chatter of our own minds. The world seems to demand that we keep moving, keep talking, and keep doing. In this relentless activity, silence often feels uncomfortable, even threatening. But in truth, silence and stillness are not voids to be avoided. They are profound spaces where clarity and transformation can arise. Silence has a depth that goes beyond the mere absence of sound. It is a state of being that allows us to connect with the essence of who we are. In silence, the outer world fades away and we are left with ourselves. For many, this can be unsettling. The noise and busyness we cling to often serve as distractions, shielding us from the truths we might encounter in stillness. Yet, it is precisely within this silence that we can begin to hear the quiet whispers of our inner voice, the voice that often gets drowned out by the clamor of daily life. When we embrace silence, we give ourselves the opportunity to pause and step away from the constant doing that defines so much of our existence. In this pause, we are able to observe our thoughts, feelings, and experiences without judgment or interference. We begin to notice the patterns of our mind, the ways we react to situations, and the emotions that arise within us. This awareness allows us to better understand ourselves and to respond to life with greater clarity and intention. Silence becomes a mirror reflecting back to us the truth of our inner world. Stillness, like silence, is not merely the absence of movement. It is a state of inner calm, a grounding presence that allows us to fully inhabit the moment. In stillness, we are not rushing toward the next task, the next goal, or the next distraction. We are simply here, present, and at peace. This stillness is not about inactivity or passivity. It is about finding balance and harmony within ourselves. It is a powerful state from which we can act with purpose and clarity, rather than being swept away by the chaos of the world. In silence and stillness, we come to realize that much of the noise in our lives is self-created. The endless stream of thoughts, the constant striving, and the need for external validation all contribute to the mental clutter that keeps us from experiencing true peace. When we allow ourselves to simply be without judgment, without expectation, we begin to release this clutter. We create space within ourselves, a space that is not filled with worry or desire, but with a quiet presence that allows us to truly connect with the world around us. Embracing silence and stillness does not mean withdrawing from life or ignoring its demands. Instead, it means creating intentional moments where we can step away from the noise and reconnect with ourselves. These moments can be as simple as sitting quietly in nature, closing our eyes and focusing on our breath, or turning off our devices and allowing the stillness of the room to envelop us. In these moments, we find that silence is not empty, it is full of possibility, full of insight, and full of the profound realization that we are enough as we are. Through silence and stillness, we gain access to a deeper sense of awareness. We begin to notice the subtle beauty of life. Light filters through the trees, the rhythm of our breath, the stillness of the early morning hours. These small moments, often overlooked in the rush of daily life, take on a new significance when we allow ourselves to be fully present with them. In this presence, we discover a richness and depth that cannot be found in the noise and busyness of the world. The practice of silence and stillness also allows us to become more attuned to our inner wisdom. When we quiet the external and internal noise, we create space for our intuition to emerge. This inner knowing often speaks softly, but in the stillness, its voice becomes clear. It guides us toward decisions that align with our true self, helping us navigate life with greater confidence and authenticity. Silence becomes not only a refuge, but also a source of guidance and strength. In the embrace of silence and stillness, we also come to understand the impermanence of all things. The noise, the activity, and even our thoughts are like ripples on the surface of a pond, constantly changing, never permanent. But beneath these ripples lies a still and unchanging depth. In stillness, we connect with this depth, the part of us that remains steady and grounded, no matter how turbulent the surface may be. This understanding brings a sense of peace and equanimity, allowing us to face life's challenges with grace and resilience. Silence and stillness are not states to be feared or avoided, they are powerful tools for self-discovery and transformation. They invite us to step away from the distractions that keep us disconnected from ourselves and to embrace the fullness of the present moment. In doing so, we open ourselves to a deeper understanding of who we are and what truly matters in life. The essence of transformation lies in the willingness to release the old and embrace the new, to disappear from the constraints of your past and become unrecognizable, just let go of outdated attachments, dissolve the need for external approval, and dismantle the illusions of your self-image. By stepping into the present moment, transforming your inner dialogue, and immersing yourself in silence and stillness, you align with your truest nature, a nature unbound by limitations and rich with untapped potential. This journey is not about abandoning who you are, but rather about shedding the layers that no longer serve you, allowing the authentic self to emerge. In doing so, you create space for growth, renewal, and a deeper connection to life itself. The power to transform is not outside of you, it has always been within. When you embrace this truth, you unlock a freedom that is profound and enduring, stepping into a version of yourself that is aligned, whole, and expansive. This is not merely a shift in appearance or circumstance, but a profound reawakening to the boundless possibilities of your being.